Welcome back to episode 66 of the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast. My name is Josh. As always, I'm here with Troy, coming to you guys Sunday afternoon. What's going on, Troy?
Not much. Disappointing weekend for both the women's and men's Golden Gopher hockey teams. The women lost in the final, or the Frozen Four, excuse me. Then the men lost the Big Ten championship to Michigan, but they'll still be in the NCAA tournament. A little more hope there, but rough weekend.
Did you see the goal by Pitlick for the Gophers yesterday where he beat the defenseman like 7 times?
I did. Oh, yes, I did see it. I did see it on Instagram. Someone had a clip of it. Yes, that was crazy. Just back, forth, back, forth. The poor D just got undressed.
Yeah, he was like dizzy after that one. Saw that in real time. That was fun. But yeah, bummer when the Gophers lose to Michigan. But we'll move on to happier topics. Masterclass Troy's coming back this Thursday. A really exciting one, too, for me. I think for you, too, as the subject matter of our next masterclass is a really fascinating one. Late 90s hockey inserts.
Nice.
These are becoming more and more popular, seeing lots of record sales as of late of those. And a number of people had directed us to, recommended that a major late 90s insert collector, Frank Porco, would be the best to lead the masterclass. So we're excited to have that episode with him. And again, that'll be coming to you on the next episode. So this Thursday, you ready for that? The Hockey Cards Gongshow is a Patreon podcast. That means that we rely on listeners like you to help us cover expenses, keep the show rolling, continue to produce more and hopefully better hockey card content, and help us to fund initiatives to grow the hockey hobby in even a small way. Right now, you can take advantage of our Out of 99 tier, and for only $5 a month, join the Out of 99 tier, and also get access to the Gong Show Discord server, which has been pretty lively lately, huh?
Very lively.
Lots of great conversation and learn a lot from the people in there, which is pretty cool. Super easy to join. All you got to do is you can go to the Hockey Cards Gongshow website at hockeycardsgongshow.com, and there's a Become a Patron link. Or you can go to the Patreon website, Patreon, and search for Hockey Cards Gongshow. There's a link in the show description for whatever podcast app you're listening to us on right now. Or in our link tree in our Instagram and TikTok profile, there's a link there too. Since the last show, Troy, we've had 4 new patrons. Is that a record?
Might be a record.
That's crazy. Super grateful and humbled that you guys want to support us and kind of join our community and in our Discord. So I want to say a special thank you to Dcar, R. Doyle, Sonky Kong, which is kind of funny. I love that name. And CH Chubby. Thank you guys so much from the bottom of our hearts. We really appreciate you. And welcome to our little club, I guess you call it, in the Discord here. All right, Troy, you ready for the game plan?
On today's show, we begin with the greatest player to wear, number 66. This is followed by a look at who's hot and who is being picked up by the struggle bus. Next, we take a look at the hockey hobby and give a market update. Then it's off to hobby news, followed by new product releases. We end the show by looking at some possible buys as we hit the playoff push. Lots of good topics today, Josh. All right, let's do it. So, Josh.
Yeah.
I know previously we used the Hockey Writers Greatest Player to Wear Each Number article for our list. There's a lot of debate on number 66.
Really?
Internally yes, we had a debate about it, remember? Internally between us and with the larger hockey community as a whole.
Yep.
So we have stiff competition at number 66.
We do.
We had such luminaries as Yannick Dupree.
He's amazing.
Milan Novi.
Love him.
Gino Ojic. Is that right,
Can't
Josh?
live without him.
Can't live without him. And TJ Brody.
He's everybody's Brody.
Everyone's Brody. So that was our list. And then some guy that I found named Mario Lemieux.
Never heard of him.
Yeah.
French?
So took all this information, inputted their career stats and attributes into the Gong Show supercomputer.
Okay.
Hit run. And after 8 hours of the supercomputer running and chugging, smoke coming out of the supercomputer.
Oh, geez.
The supercomputer spat out the final results.
All right. Who is it?
Gong Show supercomputer says Mario Lemieux, which thank God that agrees with the Hockey Writers article. But man, I didn't know. It's weird that this guy out of nowhere just comes in and takes the list.
So is this one of our more controversial picks? Is that what we're saying?
Might be one of the more controversial ones, but
yeah.
Anyways, we're just kidding. This wasn't even close. I don't even know why they even had a runner-up in the article. They kind of made fun of it. They did. They made fun of it. They're like, I don't know why we should have a runner-up, but it feels like we should have someone in here. So it's like, I think it was Josh Ho-Sang, if I remember right. I might get the name wrong. But then it was funny because I Googled an article or Googled his name, and there was an actual article saying NHL decides to retire Josh Ho-Sang's number to honor him as number 66. It was pretty funny. It was a play on, Mario Lemieux's number being retired.
Sure.
But, okay.
Is this the first like super duper star that we've had in
I think so, yeah. This is the first once you knew the number, it was like you knew the person immediately.
All right, I'm excited.
Yep, we got Mario Lemieux. And obviously we've talked about Lemieux a lot, and we talked about him when we did the Mount Rushmores. So I'm going to use some of that info, but I tried to find some other stuff just so we don't repeat ourselves a lot. But, all right, hockey's most famous 66. Per the Hockey Writers, greatest player to wear each number article is Mario Lemieux. Center, first pick overall in the 1984 NHL entry draft by the Pittsburgh Penguins. Played in 950 regular season games over a 17-season NHL career. Played his entire career at the Pittsburgh Penguins. All right, so some guys, we have no awards and accomplishments. We have lots of awards and accomplishments, and I'm probably missing some.
Take a deep breath.
Hall of Famer, was immediately inducted after first retirement with the NHL waiving the 3-year wait period. 2-time Stanley Cup winner as a player and 3 times as an owner. He was the 1984-85 Calder Trophy winner for Rookie of the Year and the 84-85 All-Rookie Team member. He's a 3-time Hart Trophy winner for NHL MVP, 6-time Art Ross winner, 2-time Conn Smythe winner, 4-time Ted Lindsay winner, 1-time Bill Masterson winner, 12-time NHL All-Star Game selection, 5-time NHL First All-Star Team selection, 4-time NHL Second All-Star Team selection, named to the NHL's 100 Greatest Players list, and was number 2 on the Athletics' top 100 players of the post-expansion era. Probably missed some in there, but if you want just a quick list of all his accomplishments, there you go. You can see why he is an absolute stud and superstar.
It's a pretty decent resume, I would say.
Pretty decent. For his career, Lemieux had 690 career goals, which puts him 11th all-time. 1,033 assists puts him 12th all-time. For a career total of 1,723 points, which puts him 8th all-time in points. He ranks 2nd all-time for most goals per game, with 0.75 behind only Mike Bossy's 0.76. 2nd all-time in assists per game for his career with 1.13. This puts him 2nd all-time behind Gretzky's 1.32 assists per game. And Lemieux is 2nd all-time in points per game during his career at 1.88 points per game, again behind Gretzky, who is at 1.92 points per game.
That's wild to think about. That basically every game they were guaranteed 2 points, both of them, pretty much.
Yeah, you went in, the other team came in down 2-0. This is almost how you can look at it. Lemieux made the playoffs in 8 of his 17 NHL seasons, compiling 76 goals, 96 assists for 172 points in 107 playoff games played.
What, can we stay there for a second, though?
Yeah.
So you have who many would probably consider a top 5 player of all time, right?
Oh, God, top 3, I would say.
Top 3, right? Made the playoffs less than half of his seasons of his career.
There were some lean years with the Penguins.
Holy cow.
All right, best season of his career from a point standpoint was his 1988-89 season, where Lemieux had 85 goals and 114 assists for 199 points. Obviously, I don't need to go into Lemieux. I think most of our listeners know about him. He was a big dude, skillful playmaker, excellent puck handler, fantastic skater, could do all aspects of the game, fantastic. And also, when you think about what players meant to their city, I think it can be argued no NHL player has meant more to a city than Lemieux did to Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. He brought them into relevance as a player and then ended up saving the team by buying them when they're about to declare bankruptcy and keeping the Penguins in Pittsburgh. That's a pretty... I don't know how many other players have done that. I'm sure there's probably one in the past or a couple, but it's pretty interesting how he came in and they got a statue now in front of the rink and all that stuff. He was hampered by injuries. Obviously, he had bouts with lymphoma and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He was able to play 915 out of a possible 1,430 regular season games. So think about that. He missed 500-plus games that he could have played in and what his stats would have been. It's always one of those big what-ifs. Obviously, it didn't happen, so you can't dwell on it too much. But it's always interesting to think about that. Currently,
don't they say the best ability of an athlete is availability?
Yeah, true.
Right?
Lemieux is still currently a part owner, but I believe he sold his majority share ownership in the Penguins, and he's still the chairman of the board. And I put here just a note, there's so much we could get into with Lemieux, but that would make this a 2-hour segment, and we don't have enough time for that. So we are just going to move on to fun facts. And
Can I ask you a question first, though?
Yeah, go ahead.
So do you think he is more important to the Penguins than Sidney Crosby?
Yes. Here's what I'll say. There's probably no Penguins if it wasn't for Lemieux.
Okay, fair point.
Penguins are gone. They're probably bankrupt and sold or going off to somewhere else.
Gotcha.
All right, fun fact time. Nicknames, the Magnificent One, Le Magnifique, I think is that how you say it, and Super Mario. I like Super Mario.
Yeah.
Here's one of my great lines about Lemieux. First game, first shift, first shot, first goal. So if you ever watch it, yep. His first game on his first shift, he had his first shot and he had his first goal, all in the same. He stole the puck from Ray Bourque and ended up scoring. It's pretty amazing. Just kind of a hint of what was to come with him.
Wow.
Next fun fact. Scotty Bowman said about Lemieux, Mario's the best player that ever lived. I think that's pretty telling. If you have Scotty Bowman, who I have a ton of respect for. I absolutely admire Scotty Bowman. I've listened to him talk many times. I've been to conferences with him. I think he's really in tune just with the game and how it is today even. And I think that's high praise. Lemieux, I found why he was number 66. So Lemieux changed his number to 66 because it basically was Gretzky's iconic 99 upside down. And he was recommended to do this from the advice of an agent. So not too exciting of a backstory, but some kind of backstory. All right, this is one of my favorite ones. There was so much hype around Lemieux, especially in Canada. And just to show what NHL teams are offering to get the number one pick in the NHL draft from the Penguins GM, Eddie Johnston, the Nordiques offered each of the Stastny brothers and their first-round pick for the right to draft Lemieux. The Winnipeg Jets presented to Pittsburgh every pick they owned in the 1984 draft to get the number one pick. And the Canadians assured they would match and do better than any other club out there to get the number one pick. Wow. Obviously, Pittsburgh made the smart decision and kept it and drafted Lemieux, but that's pretty nuts. Having a team say, you just have all our draft picks. We just want the number one pick to get Lemieux. Lemieux is the only man to have his name on the cup as a player and an owner. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
All right, and the last fun fact. He is the only player to score a goal in each of the 5 possible situations in a single NHL game. He accomplished this feat on December 31st, 1988 against the Devils. So what are those 5 situations? He scored an even strength goal. He scored a goal on the power play. He scored a shorthanded goal. He scored on a penalty shot, and he scored into an empty net all in the same game.
Troy bringing the fun fact heat again.
Only player ever to do that in an NHL game. That's pretty cool.
Sweet.
That's how you end a fun fact segment.
There you go.
All right, Lemieux's rookie card. We've talked about it. It's a 1985. There's OPG number 9. PSA 10 only has 48 graded copies. A gem rate of a paltry 0.84%. Last sale was $46,800 US on February 5th, 2023 via Heritage Auctions. The all-time high I could find on this was $80,100 US on January 26th of 2021, which sounds about right. There's also, everyone should know that there's also the Topps version of this card. The 1985 Topps number 9 PSA 10 has a pop of 78 with a gem rate of 1.31%. Last sale of this card I could find was $13,200 US on November 27th, 2022 via the PWCC weekly auction. And the all-time high I could find on this Topps version was $21,600 on February 6th, 2022 via Golden. Don't those values seem super low?
Yeah, I'm surprised that there hasn't been a $100,000 Lemieux sale to this point.
Someone tell me if I missed it, because I really tried to look these up.
I've had that thought before. And if you think of so the guys that have sold for $100,000 or more, I think are like Orr, Howe, Gretzky, and McDavid, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of, who's the next candidate to have a 6-figure sale, it's probably Lemieux, Lemieux, Crosby, or Ovechkin, right? Those would be I think Ovi might have had a 6-figure sale too. It does seem low. And I actually remember one of the first times we talked about cards, you had pulled out your childhood collection. You had a couple of these.
I was just thinking about this. I have 2 tops versions of the card, not anywhere near a PSA 9 or 10. I would, if I had to give them my own grade, it's probably a 3 or 4. They were wildly off-centered. Corners were a little banged up. I think at one point when I was a kid, I had 3 and might have made like one of the dumbest trades all time. I'm pretty sure I traded one of my Lemieux rookies for just maybe a Ron Hextall or something dumb like that. But live and learn, I guess, as a kid.
That happens. Do you remember how you got them?
I probably bought packs because where I grew up, there was a corner. Like back in the day, we had corner drugstores. We had drugstores that were in the neighborhoods, and I could walk there. It was like a block and a half from my house, and I'm pretty sure I probably walked up there. I remember always getting all my change and walking up there and buying either NHL stickers for my sticker albums or packs of cards. So I'm pretty sure I just probably bought it through a pack.
That's cool. When you have them and they're pack open by you as a kid, you got to keep those. All right, well, that was a fun one. I think probably over the next, 10, 20 episodes, we're going to have a pretty good run of players, as now we're getting into the forward numbers from the 80s and 90s that should have some fun guys to talk about. 40s were a little rough, 50s were a little rough, but it's gotten a lot better as of late. Okay, we're going to move on to Who's Hot in the Struggle Bus. And Who's Hot? I believe this is this guy's first time in Who's Hot this entire season. But boy, does he deserve it. Cale Makar, we haven't gone off of memory here, but I don't think he's played well enough this year where we've featured him yet.
He hasn't, but did you see the Athletics article where I believe it's Pierre LeBrun surveyed all the GMs? I don't know if it was every GM, but he did a survey. And like for the Norris Trophy, Makar was still third by all the GMs for voting. Really? Which I thought was very interesting because a lot of things we've heard is, not a great season. We haven't heard about him a lot. But I think the GMs still see something, or maybe he's living off kind of the past hype from last year.
Carlson's got to be the prohibitive favorite, right?
Yeah, Carlson was one.
Well, the 24-year-old Avs defenseman has not had quite the magical season, as we mentioned, as he did a year ago. But Troy has been red hot over the past couple of weeks. In his last 8 games played, 3 goals, 13 assists for 16 points. That's giving him 16 goals, 45 assists for 61 points on the season. You compare that to last year, it is a little bit of a step back. So last year he had 28 goals, 58 assists, and 86 points. With 14 games left, it's not likely he'll match last season at this point. And so I think we're looking at a little bit of a regression type year from a points production standpoint for Makar. He has been beat up, I think, a little bit this year, like a lot of players. So maybe that has factored into it a little bit. The Avs also started slow. The team did. And just like Makar, they've been on fire lately. They're steadily climbing up the standings. I think they won 5 straight or something like that. Another deep playoff run, and Makar plays well. It could possibly juice up his hobby values a little bit. From a hockey card perspective, Makar, of course, is a 2019 Young Gun. His PSA 10 popped 1,905 with a 65% gem rate. Last sold for $493 US on March 15th. Down about 19% in the past month and 52% in the past 6 months. It's crazy to think of this card being less than $500, huh? It is a higher pop, higher gem rate card, so you do have to be mindful of that, like you were saying. But if you want a Makar, Young Gun PSA 10, probably good. You're in the buying zone right now. Kind of feel like we need like a fancy sound clip, Troy. This is like, you're in the buying zone, right? For some of these, but yeah, it might be a good time to pick it up. But he's been heating up at the right time. I guess that's what you can hope for. Next guy in Who's Hot, 24-year-old Coyotes forward, Clayton Keller. Been on quite the tear as well. If you recall from our last episode, he was named last week to the NHL's. He was the NHL's first star of the week. So quite a big accomplishment there. In the past 2 weeks, Keller has 7 goals, 9 assists for 16 points in 8 games played. Pretty good stat line. For the season, he's up to 32 goals, 43 assists. That gives him 75 points in 70 games. Already a career year for him for both goals and points. Best prior year was last year for goals when he had 28. So he's already jumped up from 28 to 32. I don't know. He has to be the best player on Arizona, right? I mean, it seems like he's the only good one they haven't gotten rid of.
Oh, I would think so.
He does play on the first line and power play unit. If you look right now, his line mates are Barrett Hayton and Nick Schmaltz. Not super inspiring. And like watching the Gophers play Michigan last night, But how good is Logan Cooley?
Well, that whole line is something else. You got 3 top NHL prospects on one line, and they're just silly.
So I was thinking when I was writing this that you'd have, I'm not saying that immediately next year Cooley is going to be on the top line in Arizona, but at some point in the near future, you could maybe see those 2 guys on a line together, and Keller could really benefit from the passing of Cooley. And that's one of the things that I have been really impressed with in watching the Gophers this year is how well Logan Cooley passes the puck and sets guys up. From a hockey card standpoint, Keller is a 2017 Young Gun, his PSA 10 pop 110 with a 49% gem rate. 110 pop count. Clayton Keller. It seems super low to you.
I don't know, Arizona, man. I'm guessing just not the big media hype around him.
So it last sold for $103 US on March 1st. It is up 37% in the past 3 months. Troy, you could have bought this card in January for like $60.
That's crazy. And I was actually looking at his career stats. I mean, he has been solid for his career.
And I think his career is progressing every year too, right?
Yeah, besides, 2020, 21, where he only had 56 games played, he's had, 40, couple seasons of 40 points, some 60s, and now a 75-point season.
I don't know. You're going to take a hit for being on the Coyotes, of course, but when you're talking $60, that's a pretty cheap way to get into a rookie card for a really good player. Hey, you got the next one, and who's hot?
All right, we're going the goalies. I got to show the goalie loves. Who's hot? Igor Shesterkin. Over the past 2 weeks, Shesterkin has a record of 5 wins and 0 losses with a 1.76 goals against average and a .942 save percentage with 1 shutout in 5 games played. I don't know what else he needs to do. I think that's pretty much it. You go undefeated, goals against under 2, save percentage over 9.3. You're going to be a who's hot candidate. And I actually have watched a little bit of highlights, and then I watched the highlights of their win yesterday versus Pittsburgh. And oh boy, is he looking awesome. Shesterkin was just all over, moving around, making crazy saves. There was this one where he poke checks it. Granlund, I think, comes in. Shesterkin poke checks, kind of misses it, but lifts his pad up behind him. And where did the shot go? Right into his pad and bounces off. And it's just, I love seeing that stuff where you can tell he's just always thinking about things. His movements look really good. On the season, Shesterkin has a record of 32 wins, 11 losses, and 7, I always call them overtime losses. His goals against is 2.57 with a .912 save percentage and 2 shutouts. I can't remember, but I thought, did he struggle? Did the Rangers themselves struggle in the beginning of the season? I feel like maybe that's
the middle of the season too.
Was it middle? Yeah. So I think that's kind of hurt his numbers a little bit, but boy, is he heating up when you need him to. So we got Shesterkin on the, well, actually we don't have a hot bus, but he is on the who's hot. His Young Guns. Remember, this is one of those kind of goofy ones. It actually came out in 2019, SP Authentic. It was a Young Guns update. It's number 528. The PSA 10 has a pop of 341 with a gem rate of 41%. Currently going anywhere from $315 to $375 US. Has trended around this range since December, but is definitely down from where it was going at the beginning of the season, where we saw sales around the mid 500s. Now, I will say within the last couple of months, there was a $500 sale that seemed like an outlier. So I kind of just let that one hang because it was the only one. Now, this card with the pop 341 doesn't sell that often, but it does sell enough. But that's kind of, so it's down. I mean, and has a low pop, low gem rate. So maybe it's something people are going to look at. It is interesting to see Shesterkin's season kind of heating up right now.
If you're a Rangers guy or goalie guy, Shesterkin collector, whatever it may be, the fact that his Young Guns was not in flagship and was as an update in SP, I think this is one where you can look at more closely from a long-term investment perspective. Because you just have to assume the print runs are smaller.
Yep.
There's no way they printed as much SP Authentic as they did flagship. All right, there it is. Try the struggle bus. First guy in the struggle bus for Monday's show here is Capo Caco. He's still very young, 22-year-old Rangers forward, has not had the best couple of weeks. In his last 8 games played, Troy, he has 1 assist, which equates to 1 point. He is in the midst of his best season so far. with 12 goals, 20 assists for 32 points in 69 games played. If you kind of take out this recent 8-10 game slump, he was pacing pretty good at one point in the year. He's a part of the young Rangers triumvirate that hasn't seemed to live up to expectations. Plays on the, what they call the kids line with Lafreniere and Philip Heidel being the other two. Actually, all three of them have struggled in the past few weeks. He is, Capo is a 2019 Young Gun PSA 10, top 233 with a 32% gem rate. Last sold for $90 US on March 17th. It is down about 9% in the past month and 25% in the past 3 months. I think when you look at the values of a guy like Capo, who's played for basically 4 years now, came in with a ton of hype, right? Panini did their own like set around him at one point.
Yeah,
which is kind of strange. And the fact that he still sells around $90, where like a guy like Clayton Keller is $60 at this point, just shows you how kind of goofy this hobby can be and how much of a hangover there can be when you come in with a lot of hype. We've talked about the same circumstance with Lafreniere a lot too. And, I'd probably playing in New York helps that a little bit as well. But in 4 full seasons, Troy, he's a 0.17 goals per game guy. And again, we talk about all the time, this is a hobby that's driven by goal scorers.
Yep.
It's crazy that his values are still that high. And one of the things that I'm curious is, well, obviously I'm rooting for all those guys in the kid line. I don't want anyone to fail and no reason why they can't be successful. So it was my wish. I hope that they would kind of turn it around, but assuming for a second they don't, I don't know when the hobby is going to give up on these guys. If they'll be like 31 and have played like 11 seasons and never scored more than 15 goals, it's going to be like, well, next year, I don't know.
Yeah, the thing that bugs me about Capo is that there's also a Capo Kakinen, and I hate that. I always think of the goalie. Maybe that's why his card values.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, you got the next guy on the struggle bus?
I do. All right, Tristan Jarry. Oh boy, times have been tough for Jarry lately, and the struggle bus, I said, is taking a beeline to Pittsburgh to pick him up. The call came in, and our driver wanted to get there as soon as possible because there is some struggles going on with Tristan Jarry. And actually, I knew he was kind of struggling, but I didn't realize how bad it was until Gongshow can't even get our show right. Discord user CH Cubby mentioned it in our Discord.
Is it Cubby or Chubby?
Oh no! Did we just get the guy's name wrong? Hold on.
So I might have shouted him out wrong.
Did you shout him out wrong? All right, it is CH Cubby, Cubbie. So Josh can't get our own Discord users right when he shouts them out. So apologies to CH Cubby. So again, CH Cubby was the one who kind of in our Discord listed out Jarry's kind of struggle side. I did a little more digging on him. All right, here we go. Since March 7th, Jarry has played in 6 games with a record of 1-2, with a 5.01 goals against average and a .835 save percentage with 0 shutouts. Now, some of you astute listeners probably went, 6 games played and only a record of 1-2. What's going on? Well, Jarry has been pulled 3 times in his last 6 games. Pulled on March 7th, March 14th, and March 18th. Definitely not good for a goalie's confidence, but definitely cements his spot on the struggle bus. His overall season has actually been pretty good if you looked at just the wins-loss perspective, as he's got 20 wins, 9 losses, and 6 overtime losses. However, his goals against this season is high at 3.03. Save percentage is at .907, and he only has 1 shutout on the year. From the win-loss perspective, looks great, but once you start digging in and looking at his recent play, definitely a good struggle bus candidate. His rookie cards, the 2016 Young Guns PSA 10, has a pop of 190 with a gem rate of 65%. Had some sales in December in the upper 70 to $100 US range. However, recently sales have been in the mid $30 range to mid $50 range. So there's definitely taken a hit there. And also, if I remember right, and I'm pretty sure Jarry has had spats with injuries and now is obviously definitely struggling. And I started reading some of the Pittsburgh beat writers, and there definitely are rumblings in Pittsburgh on who should Mike Sullivan be starting in net. I think the backup or Casey DeSmith has definitely been better recently, but DeSmith doesn't have the greatest numbers either on the season. So this might be a situation where you just got to roll with who's hot and keep flipping them back and forth until one of them establishes themselves. And I'm not sure Pittsburgh, I can't remember where they're at in the playoff situation, but I know there's rumblings that maybe they're not even going to make the playoffs.
I think they need good goaltending to get there, and this isn't helping. And like you said, roll with who's hot. Maybe it's more of roll with who's less cold.
Yeah, who's less cold.
Doesn't seem like either's hot. Well, thank you to C.H. Covey, who is a new Gong Show patron, for a very solid show contribution.
Yep.
Even though in my heart, your name is C.H. Chubby. So I have a mind of a 12-year-old. Okay, that is Who's Hot in the Struggle Bus for today's show. So as you recall, on Who's Hot, we had Cale Makar, Clayton Keller, Igor Shesterkin, and the Struggle Bus was Capo Caco and Tristan Jari. I want to make a quick mention of Slab Sharks. The Slab Sharks weekly auction is currently live. You can head to slabsharks.com and click on the auction link, or head to their eBay store and see all of the sweet hockey cards that they have available in this week's auction. Remember that the auction ends on Thursday night, as it always does. So keep that in mind when you're looking at the cards and placing bids. There are some amazing hockey cards included in this week's auction, Troy. The 2020 The Cup Kaprizov RP at a 12 with the really sweet Minnesota patch. It was in last week's auction, but I'm guessing wasn't paid for. So there's already tons of bids on it already. Check today. There's a 2020 The Cup J-Rob kind of button relic auto out of 3. So J-Rob Cup out of 3. A beautiful, one of my favorite cards in the collection. Beautiful 2019 Ultimate Collection Cale Makar RPA out of 46. A 2005 Beehive Ovechkin rookie auto. I think it's one of the beige 10. And then a last one that I saw today that kind of piqued my interest was a 2021 SP Game Used CHL Connor Bedard out of 98. Go ahead and check out, there's tons of more cards to look at in their weekly auction. If you're a Canadian hockey card collector and want to turn some of your cards into cash, you might want to consider using Slab Sharks for consignment. They take out all the hassles for selling your cards at eBay, like dealing with buyer questions, tracking down payment, and especially shipping your cards into the U.S. You can find more info on their consignment services at slabsharks.com. Okay, Troy. Want to take a look at the hockey market? We haven't done this in a while, I realized.
No, it's definitely been a while. What's going on with that hockey market?
Let's try to figure out what's going on. Want to try to do this in more of an evolved manner than we have in the past. So as opposed where we've just maybe kind of looked at the card ladder index and made some interpretations there. Yeah, so we'll do a little bit of a market data check, pulse check, do some blood work, I guess, however you want to look at it. Try to look at it quantitatively and a little bit anecdotally as well. First thing we'll try to do is slice and dice some of the data from all the angles we can. And then, of course, try to figure out what it all means. Like we normally do, I want to start with indexes, but maybe, again, take a little bit more of an evolved approach this time. I think an important thing to note on indexes is they are, of course, not perfect. Just like with any stock index, right? They're comprised of a selected group of cards that are meant to be representative of all the cards within that group or segment or the hobby. The issue, I think, with the hockey indexes in particular is they don't get the most attention, thought, or maintenance by the analytics companies that we're going to reference, as probably they would readily admit, right? These are all, like, whether it's card ladder or market movers, bigger part of their focus goes to baseball, football, basketball. And so I think that when you compare sort of the quality of cards that make up their indexes, it's a little bit stronger on the three bigger sports than it is in hockey. Because Troy and I, we've both gone through, right, and looked at, kind of done some breakdowns and found some pretty big flaws. And we'll do our best throughout this to point out some of, I guess, the head-scratching inclusions or emissions from those. And I think the one last things I'll say about the indexes is because they're not perfect, you really can't look at them as an absolute, and we've never done that, of course. What we try to do is use them as a data point or a representation of where the market is, use them directionally, however you want to put it. So with card ladder, we'll start there. Over the past month, Troy, the hockey index is down 1.38%. Still doing better than the three other major sports. Baseball is down 1.7%, basketball is down 3.6%, and football, 8.4%. If you look at a couple longer views over the past 3 months, the card ladder hockey index is down 4%, Only baseball's doing better at 1.85. And yikes, Troy, here we go. Basketball's down 16.5%, and football were 16.63. I think the baseball thing makes a lot of sense, right? We have the season shortly approaching. Yeah. We're in spring training. You had Top Series 1 come out.
I think baseball. That the World Baseball Classic might prop that up too a little bit next month.
That makes sense to me. And hockey has felt like a little bit of a lull lately, so I'm not shocked. It's down 4% according to Card Ladder. I also want to say too, hockey is one of the only 3 indexes up in the last 6 months, which basically puts you at the start of the NHL season. So hockey is up 4.17%. So while it's down 4.09% over the last 3 months, it's up in total 4.17 over the last 6. Baseball's down 10.82. Basketball, Troy, is down 36.92%, and football's down 38.59%. The only other indexes that are up besides hockey are Card Ladder's culture and outlier indexes. Doesn't make you feel great because it's not up 50%, but it's much better than being down almost 40% like football. Pros and cons with the Card Ladder index, right? Pros, I think by far is the largest data set. They get sales from the most sources. I think of any analytics program. Their data also goes back the furthest down to early 2000s. They have a lot of recorded sales, something like that. So if you want to do deep historical comparisons, they're probably the go-to spot. The cons of Card Ladder that I think we found is they have a tendency to miss some sales, which can alter how the indexes perform. I'm sure it's the case for any platform, right? But did they miss some? Then there's the issue of unpaid or return sales being reported as sales in Card Ladder, which I don't really fault them because that's kind of an eBay reporting issue, but it does happen. But the biggest issue I think and we'll find this in Market Movers too, is sort of how the makeup is of the cards that comprise the index. And in particular with Card Ladder, I think there's some glaring omissions. So you have on the vintage side, you have guys missing like Tim Horton, Jacques Plante, Terry Sawchuk, where they have Jean-Gabriel Pageau, but no Jean Beliveau. Okay, right. I could go on, but you kind of get the point. And really where CL lacks the most is probably an ultra modern. So for many of the 2020 rookies and young guns, they only have raw. There's no PSA graded values. There's no graded for Ottinger, Stützle, Cousins, as an example. They only have young guns too for 2020, no future watch autos or other cards. I believe in 2021, Caulfield is the only rookie in their database to this point, and then they have nothing for 2022. So that's going to skew, and depending on their view of the market, to a specific group and era of cards. Right? Is there anything from a Card Ladder perspective that you think is good from a context point of view, Troy, that we haven't mentioned?
No, we mentioned the sales history. Their platform's probably the absolute best if you want to find sales history going back the farthest. They do have customization options. I know you can make your own index, but I know I've tried in the past and had issues with it. But I think it's probably more than I didn't know what I was doing more than the platform. But you can do some stuff there, and there's a lot of other different stuff. They have you can search by, if you're looking for sales histories and stuff, you can search by just the picture of the card and stuff. But just from the straight up index perspective, I think we've covered most of it.
So the net on Card Ladder is their hockey index is showing for the last month, hockey's down 1.8%. For the last 3 months, it's down 4%, but it's up 4% over the last 6 months. We just wanted to go a little bit deeper, provide the context so that kind of people understand maybe where some of the accuracies and inaccuracies that can come out of the database are. Okay, so let's go. The other kind of index that you hear a lot about is Market Movers, which admittedly is pretty new for us. We just got into it a few weeks ago, and I think both of us, Troy, have been feeling our way around it. Mm-hmm. One nice thing about Market Movers is it doesn't just have one hockey index. It kind of breaks it into eras, mainly decades. But you can also pull out specific Young Guns years, which is kind of cool. It also, though, for that reason, makes it difficult to get the overall hockey market as a glance, because I couldn't find a way of the 12 index breakdowns they have to find an aggregate view. Maybe I was just missing it, and so I kind of had to look at it kind of era by era. When looking at their 1959 and older index, they have no data for the past 30 days, which, again, this points out a flaw in how their data is constructed, because just through our work with PWCC and the weekly auction, we know there's been tons of big sales of the 1959 and older cards in the last 30 days. And if I had to give a purely anecdotal perspective, I would say that part of the market is doing pretty dang good.
Yeah.
And so none of these indexes are perfect, and not trying to bash either card ladder or market movers, but it kind of shows sort of flaws in how they track. If you look at their 1969 to 1960 to 1979 hockey index, they only have one Gretzky rookie in there. It's the OPC PSA 8, because there's lots of Gretzky sales, and I don't know, maybe that's the most sold Gretzky card, but it's hard to judge the value of that era or the health of that era by looking at one microcosm of one Gretzky. I guess I would have some issues with that there too. And not to belabor the point here, but I don't think it has the best representation of all vintage hockey. And, they probably need somebody to come in there and help them kind of sort out their index. I think when you want to try to gauge the health of the hockey market movers probably is a little bit better at the more modern cards, and maybe having even a little advantage over card ladder there. So I chose, for our purposes in trying to make sense of what's going on in the hockey market, well, let's look at their 3 indexes that I think are a little more in their wheelhouse and maybe give us a sense of what's going on. So I looked at their hockey market index of 2010 to 2017. Then they have another one for cards for 2018 to 2020, and then they have a 2021 Young Guns. So their 2010 to 2017 index in the past 30 days is up 6.7%. Past 3 months, up 2.9%. But over the past 6 months is down 10.7%. Their 2018 to 2020 card years or rookie years, past 30 days down 7.9%. 90 days down 17.1%, and 6 months down 35%, almost. And then for 2021 Young Guns, past 30 days down 4%, 90 days they're flat around 4.3%, and 6 months they're negative 4.3%, which is kind of weird because I think there might be a system issue there because everything is 4.3. Seems hard to happen. So I don't know. So I'm looking at all these. It's like, my first question is, does your head hurt yet in trying to decipher the data between card ladder and market movers? And do you think, Troy, it gives you any sort of semblance of what the heck is going on in the hockey card market, where it stands, how healthy or unhealthy it is?
No, it just gives me one data point, or each gives me a different data point to look at. But it's actually nice that I actually don't mind that one's really good at separating it by years, maybe, and the more modern stuff, and we can use the other one for the more vintage stuff. I actually kind of like that.
I had kind of 3 takeaways from all this sort of index data. First, of course, as we've just talked about, they're not perfect, and you can't consider them an absolute, but they can provide at least an indication of what's going on in the market. Second, the hockey market's been a mixed bag in a very uncertain, unpredictable, and weird economic time, but generally seems to be treading water, especially compared to other sports, or staying afloat. Like when you look at basketball or football as an example, they seem to be hurting pretty big right now. And I think the third thing, Troy, is that we're definitely not in one of those boom times where every card that has a pulse is going to go up in value.
Yeah, true.
Right. I think the pandemic era sports card boom maybe created an impression with people that all cards should go up all the time. And that's just probably not the case, or not realistic. I guess those are my takeaways. And then beyond the index, I thought, well, where else could we look for kind of data to try to help understand where we think the hockey card market is at right now? And so I kind of fell back on some of our data that we pull each month. So at the end of the month, we look at who the top players that sold cards were for that month. And we look at not for how much they sold, but which players sold the most cards. Like Wayne Gretzky sold 3,500 cards in February. Down. We usually do a top 25, but look at a couple hundred when we're doing that research. And then we look at each month the total amount of Young Guns that are sold too. And in general, those have both been steady or increasing. Like you look at Young Gun sales for February, it was up 20% year over year over 2022. Now, again, that's looking at the total cards sold and not the total value of those cards, which is harder to get out of some of the data sources that we had. And on a side note there, I don't know if you've heard this, Troy, from Chris McGill at Card Ladder, but I think I've heard him a few times in the past couple months say that as they've looked at aggregate data and just looking at the sports card market as a whole, that the total amount of cards sold has been steadily it has been steady or even risen a little bit, even though the prices are way down. So it still kind of says to them that there's still a lot of interest in the sports card market, but people are just paying less for the amount of cards, which I think is interesting. So I put all this together and, kind of explaining my thought process here and rolling through the data sources that I came up with. And as we're sitting here in the middle of March, Troy, here's, I guess, my total takeaways. First of all, I think anyone's current perception of hobby health is going to have a lot or most to do with the make and mix of your collection and your personal experiences, whether over the last 6 months or a year. And I think that's going to vary a lot right now because the hockey market has been sort of a mixed bag. So if you're a big Young Guns collector and you're huge into 2020, 2021, and 2022 rookies, you might not be as optimistic on the market as someone that has collected late 90s inserts and bought those and probably done really well on there, right? Over the last
1910 C55s and 56.
Yeah, 100%, right? So it's going to come down to kind of where your focus has been, where the bulk of your collection lies. I think that in a mixed bag market, that's going to largely kind of shape whatever view that you have. And so as I've tried to go through everything, here's the term that I'm going to use to describe, and from my perspective, the health of the hockey market. And I want to see if you agree. I would consider it reasonably healthy. Do you think that's a good way to put it, or do you disagree with that?
Nope, I can live with reasonably healthy.
I think the market has been hurt by the macroeconomic factors that we know we're all living through.
Yep.
But it's created a situation where to be successful in building value into your collection, that you have to be really smart about what you're buying and when you're selling. So these are cards that players are playing really good and are legends or Hall of Famers and have a solid or consistent hobby collecting base. Cards that are generally chased or valued in the hobbies, not like the off the wall or beaten path cards that kind of are random and just people don't seem to know a lot about. And where there's scarcity and low replaceability values, right? Cards that have huge pop counts and very high gem rates, like Troy's Kaprizov Young Guns PSA 10 we talk about all the time, I think are going to have a tough time increasing their value in the current market conditions. And so when I think of the hobby, Troy, as being reasonably healthy, what I think that I'm seeing is that logic is generally logic is prevailing, right? So you have guys like Connor McDavid or Jack Hughes or Jason Robertson or Tage Thompson that are making jumps up or playing super well. And in general, a lot of their cards are going up, right? That makes sense. You have guys like where we've talked about Cale Makar or Austin Matthews this year who haven't had great seasons. Their cards are going down. And you can even see, like, you take like a guy like Jason Robertson who pops off in real early December and his Young Gun spikes way up. And then what the intent or the consequence of that you would expect is a whole bunch of Jason Robertson Young Guns go to PSA. And now the pop count is rising and rising and rising. And we're starting to see that the value, even though he's playing really well still, he's just, I think, got over 40 goals or something like that the values are coming down a little bit while other areas of his card market are setting record sales. So it's a time where I think logically things are aligned to the most part. And it's not a market where everything's just going to go up. You got to play well for your cards to be worth a lot, right? Cole Caulfield his card PSA 10 trajectory was going up, and then he gets hurt and it starts to go down. That's what you'd expect. So reasonably healthy. What are your thoughts on the market? And what am I missing? What am I not factoring?
No, I think it's reasonably healthy. I think breaking is still pretty healthy. I do get super worried, though, that I think box prices are too high for hobby boxes. But I think that's being kind of driven by breaking is still seeming to be a very, I don't know what the right word is, lucrative, one might say, or is still getting a lot of attention. I just don't know. I get worried that the hobby can't sustain super high box prices for that long. And that's just me personally thinking about that. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but it seems like boxes just kind of keep trending up and up and up. And I don't like that trend, but we'll see if the market corrects itself or if that's how it is and people are still buying them.
Well, it must mean people, if you believe in sort of market economics, it must mean that people are buying them at those prices. And I think what you just made me think of are other kind of factors that you can weigh into. It doesn't seem like that Upper Deck is having a sales problem. Some products are doing, and this is where I go back to logic is prevailing. Some products are doing better than others, probably. These Allure cards are not setting records out of the gate, but holy cow, are people going crazy over the all-time Future Watch autos and SB Legends, right? So you put a good product, not that Allure isn't good, but a product that really compels people to drives the secondary market, then people are jumping on them and bidding pretty high. There's a Patrick Waugh that we just did an Instagram post about, I think today, all-time Future Watch auto out of 49. That's like bubbling in the auto and went for $1,300.
Yeah, just I know you know this, but just make sure people know the Allure is not where you get these all-time Future Watch autos. That's it.
Yeah,
it's in 2020, 21. Don't ask me. SP Signature Legends Hockey or something. I can't remember the
Signature Edition Legends.
Yeah.
Allure is not where you get them. But my point on Allure is that it's a $140 box. I like the cards, but they're just not driving big sales in the secondary market. And it kind of, I don't think it's because the hobby's down. I just think it's because people aren't chasing them.
And it's, right? Maybe I'm going off on a tangent, but I will say one thing I've started doing lately is looking at EPAC a lot and looking at the price of a box on EPAC versus the LCS. And there are times you can find them a lot cheaper on EPAC, which is Upper Deck's online kind of tool. Just remember, you're not getting your base. So if that's important to you, you got to remember that with EPAC. But yeah, so it's interesting to watch the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows and all that stuff.
I think another anecdotal point that to me makes me think the hobby is, again, reasonably healthy is card show traffic seems to be good. People point to that often. We're expecting to see a lot of people next month in the Spring Expo. Lots of interest in the auction houses and doing that show with Jeremy Lee. We're getting lots of people watching. So again, I just don't think that, I think the key takeaway as whether you're just a pure collector or an investor is that you have to be smart and you have to not necessarily do what we're doing, but try to apply some of the at least thought exercises that we try to, whether we have like our Gongshow rules or you come up with your own rules, but really kind of analyze kind of what you're buying. And is there an element of predictors that you can lean on to think that, okay, this is a smart buy for my PC, as in I'm not buying at the height of the market, or a smart buy from an investment perspective that whatever card I'm trying to get into has a good chance, if everything works out like you want it to, or you think it will, to go up in value in the future. Reasonably healthy.
Reasonably healthy. Now, it was funny that you mentioned like card shows and sports card expo traffic. Did you notice, this is totally not related to this topic, but did you notice that the Toronto Spring Expo is at the same exact time as one of the biggest card shows I think Minnesota's seen in a long time? There's the Minnesota.
It's a brand new show.
Yeah, new show, the Minnesota Card Show, which is like 30,000 square feet, which is huge for Minnesota. Again, who knows how much hockey will be there, but I thought that was interesting, and I'm just going to mention it.
We're going to miss it. I know.
Well, we'll be where the hockey cards are.
Okay, we're going to move on to hobby news. So on the injury update front, saw something about John Carlson, who should be returning to the Capitals lineup soon. He's been out since right before Christmas when he was hitting the head Troy with a slap shot that fractured his skull. Glad to hear he's recovering well. I think he's practicing with the team and is probably waiting for medical clearance to get back to game action. Next thing, Troy, I just had to put this on there. So I saw this headline on NHL.com today and thought it was really funny. So the headline reads, Blackhawks eliminated, hurt by poor special teams, lack of scoring. And I'm reading that, right? And I'm thinking, shouldn't the headline be something more like Blackhawks eliminated, hope they stunk enough to get Bernard?
Yeah, no kidding.
Bernard, right?
Management did everything they could to sink that team.
It's like, come on, stop trying to put lipstick on a pig, NHL.com. We know that they tanked to get Bedard.
You know what? I totally didn't say this, but when I was doing the research on Lemieux, the Penguins kind of did the same thing. They sent their starting goalie to the minors.
Really?
Yeah, they moved him to the minors for a little bit to help with their situation. So it's been around for a while. I don't think.
Oh, yeah.
I'm wondering, I think back then probably if you were last, you got the first pick. I don't know how recently the whole ping pong balls thing's been put into play, but I'm guessing back then it was your last, you get first pick.
Speaking of goalies, Troy, and speaking of last show where you did a fantastic goalie breakdown on the top drafted goalie prospects, one of the guys you covered, Devin Levi, just signed with the Sabres. 21-year-old Hobie Baker finalist signed a 3-year entry-level contract last Friday with Buffalo. Looks like he's going to remain with the NHL team once he gets there through the rest of the season. Coaching staff, I guess, is going to take it day by day as far as if or when he sees any game action. If you remember on our last show, when you did the Athletics top drafted goalie prospects, he was currently ranked number 4. Could he be, right? A lot of people think they're a goalie away. Could he be the solution in Buffalo try?
It'll be interesting because a lot of these older college guys, when they get signed, they usually go right to the NHL team and they'll play them right away just to kind of see what they have and see what they can do. So I hope he gets in and we see what he's about. Maybe they'll have some magical run or something at the end here.
You might be eating into time for your guy, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. UPL. I never use this, but it's worth noting the Dibs Marketplace try ceases business operations. Found this out by a TikTok story by our guy, Coach Co. If you're not following him on TikTok, you really should. He's got awesome sports card content. Not all hockey card, but a fair amount of it's hockey card. So Dibs was a highly funded and backed buy-sell platform that also included the ability to fractionally buy into cards. Investors, pretty impressive backing, like Nat Turner, Chris Paul, the NBA guy, Kevin Love from the NBA, to name a few, put money into this. Who knows the real story, of course, but what they say on their website is that they had some issue with banking relationships, which, well... Were they
heavily at Silicon Valley Bank or whatever that one that went belly up is?
Maybe we should have put banks on the struggle bus this week. Right, that seemed to hamper their ability to transfer funds or something like that. And so they're ceasing operations. In their message to their customers, they at least are attempting, it seems like, to do right by them. We'll see in actuality what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like trying to help them get their money out and make them whole through the situation. The main reason why I bring it up is, well, first of all, have you ever heard of these guys?
I've heard of fractional marketplaces before. I don't know if it was Dibs that they were talking about when I heard it or what company was being talked about. But these fractional marketplaces always intrigue me. That seems like a good idea, but I don't think they've ever really worked.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is like a cautionary tale, right? Like I said, they seem to be doing right by their people and their customers, which is nice to see. But companies can go out of business and just go dark. And so if there's a PSA 9 OPC Wayne Gretzky that you want to buy into for $10,000 and be a fractional owner, what happens if that company goes insolvent like Dibs has and they just ghost everybody? Are you out your $9,000? I'm sure with any of these fractional companies, there's stuff in their agreement. And so again, I think the reason why I wanted to bring it up on our show here is just to remind everybody, when you're putting money into cards, whether it be fractional parts of cards, like in the case of Dibs or other fractional markets, or cards that are in vaults somewhere, or what was the other? Was it Slab Stock? Was
it Star Stock?
Star Stock, yeah, where people were sending their cards and then they go into financial trouble and nobody can get their cards back. You just got to be really, really careful and do your research and don't dive into the deep end with these companies. Test them out and ask them questions. As painful as it is, review the fine print to make sure that in situations like this that you feel like you have adequate amount of protection. All right, we're going to move on to PWCC. Of course, they're a Gongshow partner and sponsor. They just finished up their March premiere auction. You can check out our Instagram to see their top selling hockey cards from the PWCC March premiere. A couple of Gretzky rookies in there and 3 McDavid rookies that I think all set all-time highs, which is pretty cool. In addition to that, Troy, the current PWCC weekly auction is live. Head to pwccmarketplace.com to check out all the hockey cards available to bid and add to your collection this week. I think as of right now, in the current auction, Troy, there's 296 hockey cards. I took a quick view. I don't know. Have you looked yet?
I have not looked yet.
A lot of really interesting cards in this one. A little bit off of this one's. I think you're going to really enjoy this one because they're not like weird, uninteresting cards. They're weird, very interesting cards.
Cool.
So this is a Troy auction. We'll do our favorites on Thursday like we always do. Also remember that PWCC has a vaulting service where you can get your cards graded as well. And they also have tons of cards, good hockey cards in their fixed price marketplace. So head out to PWCC Marketplace for more info. Okay, we're on to new product releases. We have a checklist out. We're just addicted to new product releases. I feel like we went 2 weeks without one, and now it just feels like hockey cards never come out again, doesn't it?
Yeah, so we do have a new product release. I wrote it down. I want to make sure this is right. 2021-22 SPX is what I have. I think that's the right year.
Yeah.
So the checklist is out. I want to take a brief look at the release, what cards are included, all that fun stuff like we usually do. But to start, I'm kind of flipping how I do it. I'm starting with the basic stuff first. So the overview, release date, tentatively scheduled for March 29th, 2023. Always subject to change. In a hobby box, there are 1 card per pack, 4 packs per box. So remember that. You get 4 cards if you buy a hobby box of this stuff. If you buy a case, there's 20 boxes per case. Now, I'm going to start with the box break. On average, here's what you get. And I swear, they write this stuff just to drive me insane. You get 2 autograph memorabilia and or autograph plus memorabilia cards. Okay. Also, 2 tech cards, or as I put it another way, is to say 2 base cards or inserts. So you get 4 cards. That's your. They need to I want to in the sell sheet it says 2 autograph memorabilia plus or autograph plus memorabilia cards, and then list out every one of those cards so I can see what I'm really doing because
they look like.
Yeah, I hate how they word these. Now, what's interesting?
We need to ask them what tech cards are because that's come up a lot, and I'm not exactly.
I just
sure
read it as
means.
the 2 base or inserts, and I think this design, like SPX, has always had kind of this techie future kind of connotation with it, so that's what I kind of went with it. But we can always ask Upper Deck. What I wanted to note about how they list what you get on average is it seems like a slight step back when you looked at 2020-21 SPX, where you still had the 1 card per pack and 4 packs per box, but the listing of the box break on average was stated as 2 to 3 autograph and or memorabilia cards per box. So I feel you're taking a very slight step back, or could be semantics. Don't ask me. But I just wanted to make everyone aware of that. Okay, finally, pricing. Right now in the U.S. at online retailers, still Steel City and Dave & Adams, they are showing $129.99 U.S. dollars for a box. Clouts and Chara for Canada is showing 159 Canadian dollars and 99 cents for a box of 2021-22 SPX. So there we go. Get the basic stuff. Or now there's more basic stuff. I did the old, let me look at this spreadsheet and see how many actual cards are on it. There are 3,494 different cards in this release. I always like looking at that number. And that obviously doesn't count. It's not counting all 20 copies of whatever out of 20s. It's just there's 3,494 unique cards in the set.
Is this a set that interests you?
Not one bit. Okay. I should say that. I do like the design and everything. I just have it's hard to buy a box with 4 cards in it and 1 card per pack. But maybe, if you get 2 auto / memorabilia / auto and memorabilia, it might be worth it. But I don't.
It feels kind of like Clear Cut, where it's a gambler's product. Yeah. You're either going to get skunked bad, or you're going to hit it big. Yeah, right.
Exactly. So now, okay, let's go through just the highlights or what are in this whole thing. Again, you can also look at Beckett or Cardboard Connection are the 2 main websites to look at this stuff. So you start with the base set. The maiden base set consists of 100 base cards, each numbered to 299. There's obviously parallels that follow the traditional hit format that include jersey, autographs, patch autos, and 1 of 1 premium patch autos. I tried to take out all the sell sheet stuff. Like, collectors are fiending for the whatever card. It's like, well, are they? How do you know that? So besides the base set, then you break down, you got the autograph cards. There's rookie jersey autos. They have the kind of the 3-tier system where tier 1 has 375 copies, tier 2 has 175, and tier 3 has 75 copies. And then in addition to those, you get the parallels, which include the Spectrums, which have 65 copies or less, and patch autos at 35 copies or less. Also in the autographs, there's the SPX signature fabrics, base versions of these having no more than 49 copies, and there's also Spectrum parallels that top out at 25. There are also patches out of 10, and patch Spectrum cards, which are 1-on-1s. They have the shadow box inserts. They returned. I guess they're in 2020-21. I don't have any 2020-21 SPX. I don't know if you do, Josh. So those are back. There's other autograph inserts, which include superscripts. I do know superscripts. I think I have a couple Pekkas superscripts. They have rookie superscripts, SPX signatures, and SPX rookie signatures. All 4 of those also have gold parallels as well. Now we move on to like the memorabilia cards. There's the double XL duos materials, which are numbered out of 99 or less. Those are back. They were in the previous version. These are those cards that have oversized swatches, and they have premium parallels, which are numbered to 10 or less. And then there's some other memorabilia-driven parts of the set, including they have rookie jerseys, winning materials, SPX jerseys, extravagant materials, and winning combos. And of those, there's Gold Spectrum or premium parallels. There's autographs are also available for some winning materials, winning combos, and extravagant materials cards. This is where it helps to really go out and look at the checklist, because what I'm saying, when it says some, okay, which ones? Yeah, you have to go look at the checklist. And then we have other inserts, which are finite rookies, which spotlight key first-year players. And they have several parallels, including gold, green, platinum, silver spectrum, gold spectrum, green spectrum, platinum spectrum. You get the idea. There's also a new insert, which is Radiant FX, which they look pretty cool from just what I've seen on the sell sheet. And then also you have the UD Blacks. I'm not as familiar with the UD Blacks. I know they've kind of moved around where they put them, and I think they've actually been their own standalones before.
Yeah.
But now it looks like they're finding their own home in
I think this
SPX.
is the big draw to SPX.
Yeah, and these start...
People that want to chase these black.
Yeah, and they, I mean, I will say they look awesome from what I've seen on the sell sheet. I haven't seen one in person. But these start, they obviously have the Obsidian rookies, which are numbered out of 349, and then they have parallels, which are gold out of 99, purple out of 25. Then they have jersey versions, have 399 copies, as well as gold patch, which are out of 35, and purple patch, which are 101s. I kind of like purple patch. I like that. It flows right off the tongue. And then Obsidian theme also continues in scripts, rookie scripts, and jerseys. Then there's also Lustrous rookie signatures, which are 299 or less, and Lustrous rookie patch autos, which are 125 or less. And these come with on-card autos. They have gold, purple parallels. There's also patch autographs, have Spectrum 101 versions, as well as Clarity variants, which are out of 15, that actually switch up the backdrop and look, they basically almost look like an inverse. Like it looks a lot lighter, like they're not the blackish or a little lighter. And finally, we have Pride of Nation patch cards return. These are rookie and veterans are limited to 99 copies or less. There's also 101 Spectrum parallels, and some cards come with autographs. But basically, these are the ones that have the manufactured patch of where the player comes from. I'm not a fan of them.
The flag.
Yeah, the flag. I'm not a fan unless they come autographed. But that's just because I don't like manufactured patches. So that's
if it was like a jersey patch that had the flag, it'd be awesome.
Oh, that'd be a little chunk. That'd be cool. So I know that's a lot. Patch. Yeah, that's a lot of information to digest. I encourage everyone to go read the checklist overviews on Beckett and Cardboard Connection, or just look at the spreadsheet.
So it'll be out in about a week, right, on the 29th.
Yep.
We're thinking. Okay, last thing we wanted to do today is we're getting very close to the playoffs. Like there's like a dozen or so regular season games left, and we're going to be in playoff time. So it got me thinking this weekend, like, well, who are guys, like if you wanted to maybe pick up some guys right before the playoffs that would have a chance to maybe have a little magic or do a little bit of a deep run where you could potentially see their values increase, who would be some of the guys that I might consider to do that? Here's our standard disclaimer. This is not investment advice. Every one of these guys their knees could fall off or play horribly and cause their teams to lose and lose all their value. So again, don't make your own decisions, but maybe this will give you something to think about. So I found 5 guys that I thought, based on their current situation, for different reasons, are kind of interesting playoff sort of pickups that you could maybe get on the little bit cheaper right now. And if they do well, make some money or just add some cool cards to your collection. So the first guy, Troy. Now, you're going to tell me if you agree or disagree with any of my selections here or kind of my points on them. I chose Stuart Skinner. And dare I say that he may be the most crucial player on the Oilers right now for them making a deep run in the playoffs.
For sure. Any team, their goalie is the most crucial player to make a deep playoff run.
Well, it comes down to him or Jack Campbell. That's going to have to get the job done. And if I had to choose, I think I'm going to pick Skinner.
I think Edmonton has chose. I looked at the last 5 games Skinner's played, and it's March 18th, March 16th, 14th, 11th. So he's getting the starts.
And I think you know what you're going to get from McDavid and Draisaitl at this point. Good goaltending would make their lives a lot easier, of course, give them a much better chance of going deep in the playoffs. And Skinner's been decent this season, which feels like a big upgrade from a Oilers perspective, especially when looking at goaltending. In the season, he's 22, 14, and 4 with a 2.9 goals against and a .911 save percentage.
I think with Edmonton, you just need a competent goalie.
Competency.
You can't have someone that you're going to know is going to let in 2 just totally savable goals. And I think just having a competent goalie would be good.
He's a young guy, only 24 years old still. Let's just say they get into the playoffs and he has the sort of Ottinger moment this year. Could really propel him forward, I think, for not only from a confidence perspective, but from a hobby value standpoint, too. He could also stink, right? That's a possibility. The guy I'm starting with Stuart Skinner, I'd probably maybe put in like as a gamble, right? This is a take a chance on me pick for the playoffs. His from Hockey Cards, he's a 2020 young gun. His PSA 10 popped 497, which is kind of higher than you might think. 75% gem rate. Last sold for $89 on March 18th. Honestly, Troy, too, this card has bounced all over the place in the last month. I think we're seeing that a lot with cards.
Yep.
Like I've seen sales in the $50 range to $110 range. So I think if you get in the $60 to $80 range and he has a good playoff run, it could be a quick flip opportunity. It might go up to $120, $140 and you make 40% and you get out. But going back to the 75% gem rate and the already relatively high pop count for a goalie of basically 500. Probably not a good long-term investment card for me. You can get like cup cards from him really cheap now too. I think the Young Guns is more of a flip opportunity. So one of my playoff push guys is Stuart Skinner. Sounds like you agree. That's not a bad.
No, I would be on that. I can get on board with that one.
The next guy that I chose is Austin Matthews. By all accounts, of course, it's been a bit of a subpar year for him. Nothing though, Troy, erases a tough season where he has been a little banged up, like some playoff heroics. So if you're a person that thinks this could be the Leafs' year, and the byproduct of a significant drop in his production is his cards are pretty affordable right now. They're a lot less than they were definitely a year ago when he was in the midst of his second Rocket Richard Trophy campaign, right? So I guess buy low. Right? Is it called in the business? Not sure what business, but the business, we're just going to call it. Now, I think what it comes down to with Matthews is he's been playing a little bit better. It seems like he might be getting a little healthier, which would be good. It just comes down to, do you think this is the year that the Leafs are going to end their 17-year drought of not winning a playoff series? So I see you smiling. It looks like they're going to play Tampa in the first round, and Tampa's been up and down.
Yeah.
Problem is going to be though in round 2 is that they might end up having to face Boston at that point, which that's tough sledding. So if you're talking about like a deep Matthews run, the Leafs consider round 2 deep.
Yeah, that's deep for them.
That's deep for them. Yeah, I don't know. So a lot would have to happen here. Like I said, his cards are down. I mean, he's got 32 goals this year. Troy had 60 last year. And his card market's feeling it. Now in the last 10 or so games, he's got 6 goals, 7 assists. So he, like I said, he's ramping it up. But his 2016 Young Gun PSA 10 popped 2,844 with a 72% gem rate. Is right around 977. But it is another crazy one. You don't see this under 1,000 real often. It had dropped Troy as low as 851 on March 1st. It's down 25% in the past 3 months, 40% from a year ago. I don't know if he has a good run. And here's my thought too, is if you're not like collecting and you don't want a Matthews Young Gun, $900 is a pretty steep bet. I was looking today, Troy, you look at like some of his like OPG Platinum Parallel, like PSA 10, way lower pop count. You can get him for a couple $100. If you're trying to maybe bet on Matthews having a good playoffs and seeing some value spike, maybe that's a better way to go.
I remember I don't know when I was looking at this. I think you can get some of his stature autos for a fairly reasonable price if that's a route you want to go.
Yeah. So you think he's a decent playoff pickup, or are you too worried about the team just getting spanked?
I don't know. I haven't followed Toronto enough this year. I'm always worried with Toronto. They have so much going against them. It's like every year it's the same stuff with them and just kind of implode. I hope this is the year they do it, but I would probably, if I'm doing this, I'm looking at the other, like the Platinum Parallels, OPGs.
Yeah.
I'm looking at other stuff besides the Young Guns.
The next guy I picked is actually another goalie. It's last year's playoff goalie darling, Jake Ottinger, who had a magical run. No one will forever get it was against Calgary, wasn't it? When they...
Yeah, they played in the first round. I can't remember the team. I can never remember the team.
Yeah, like 60-some saves and lost or something like that. And it kind of propelled him forward this year. And he's been had a strong year. He is a Vezina candidate, but it's a pretty distant list, once you get past Linus Allmark. And on the season, Ottinger's performed pretty well. He's 30-10-10 with a 2.46 goals against and a .918 save percentage. He's 8th in the NHL currently in goals against and 5th in save percentage. And the reason why I picked him is I see this as a sort of another level up opportunity, right? If he can follow up with last year's performance, maybe they go a little bit deeper this year. He plays really well. Does he go really into that very tippy top here elite kind of goalie category where, I don't know, maybe even some people consider him there already? And as opposed to Toronto, right, it helps that they're in the Western Conference. They don't have to run into or play Boston until potentially the Cup finals. The West, too, seems a little more, I don't know what the word is, like wide open this year, right? And so you could potentially see Dallas kind of making a little bit of a run. When you look at Ottinger's cards, he's a 2020 young gun, his PSA 10, pop 672, 49% gem rate. So I feel a lot better about that gem rate. That sold Troy for only $63.
Wow.
By eBay auction on March 17th. Normally it's been in the 70 to 80s range. Mm-hmm. So 63 seems pretty low. I'm not sure you'll get it that low consistently. But if you can get these in the 60s and 70s and he does do well in the playoffs and they do go on a run, it could go to 100, 120 easy. And you could cash in. So I would, if I'm doing playoff betting, I'm using his young guns because it's the easiest to sell, most liquid. You agree with that?
Agree. Plus, that would help me. I have lots of Ottinger cards. Dude, Ottinger do well, dang it. No, but I keep mine. I have no intent on flipping. I love Ottinger. He's my boy.
So I picked 5. My 3 so far are 2 goalies. So I had Stuart Skinner, Austin Matthews, and Jake Ottinger. Next guy is Jack Hughes. He's another guy that's in, I think, the level up category, just like Ottinger. We've talked about him quite a bit, I think, over the last couple months. And it just seems like he's on that cusp, right, of that next level. On the season to date, he's only 21, so very, very young. He's got 37 goals, which is impressive, 44 assists for 81 points, and 65 games played. I really hope he gets to the 40-goal mark. It looks like he'll definitely have a chance to do that, but I think that would be huge from a hobby perspective. What I really like when I'm looking into Hughes, Troy, is so he's finishing his 4th full season, essentially. His production and goal scoring has increased every year he's been in the NHL. That's what you want to see.
This is like the perfect use case for a breakout superstar.
Yeah. He's on a good team, right? The Devils have the 3rd most points in the league right now. So that should help maybe him make a little bit of a splash in the playoffs. His 2019 Young Gun PSA 10 up 2,942. That's getting close to 3,000. 75% gem rate. Last sold for $262 on March 17th. It is up 14% in the last 3 months, but down 11% in the past year. And again, I think that's indicative, like what you say, well, how could Hughes have had such a good year, but his Young Guns is down 11%? Well, it's because it's 3,000 pop with a 75% gem rate. So again, this is a level up guy, can he push himself into that next level and really get the hype train into 5th gear? Or do trains have gears? I don't know. We're going to roll with it. I would probably look outside of his Young Guns. Again, maybe Future Watch Auto if you've got a little bit more money. OPG, just like with Matthews, you can get some really inexpensive OPG Platinum Rookie Parallels that are really cool cards. There's retros, there's base. That might be a place to look there, but do you see him as a potential kind of playoff guy?
Jack Hughes is one of these guys that's just grown on me. I didn't know a lot about him, and then the last year I've really started looking at him, and he's so young too. 4 years in the NHL, super young, increasing production every year. All the criteria for a good buy. So I'm all in.
My last guy, we've already talked about him today, but I really feel like there's a sort of a renaissance opportunity, just sort of like with Austin Matthews, redemption from a hobby perspective. And I'm going to go with Cale Makar. So if we were talking a year ago at this time, right, he's about to summit into NHL immortality, right? He won the Stanley Cup last year, the Norris Trophy, the Conn Smythe. There was 70,000 plus Bobby Orr comparisons I haven't heard any.
I think I made
this
about
year.
500 of those.
Yeah, right. And I think we all knew it's like everything went perfect for the guy last year. It was going to be really tough to live up to this year, and it hasn't been as good of a year. There's no way to shake it. I know he's been banged up a little bit like other people, but he is picking up the pace right now, right? He's number one guy in Who's Hot today. The team is playing really good. So I don't know, Troy, are we lining up for another Makar Magic run in the playoffs here? And I think what makes him interesting in looking at as a playoff kind of pickup is because of the regular season, his card values are down again. Should you be loading up maybe on some, even if you're a Makar guy or you kind of like the Avs? The way that I try to approach all these is I try to find cards that kind of have upside, but try to minimize the downside a little bit. So these are cards that I think I like, that generally people like, that won't maybe lose, not from like flash in the pan kind of performances where they could go way up then way down. And that even if the player doesn't have the perfect playoffs, like we think they might be set up to capitalize on, well, it's still a good card. It's still going to have value. Then you can either just kind of try to get out of it from what you got into it, or you can keep it over the long haul and it should chug along and build value within your collection. So again, I might be looking at, and Makar is only 2019. You can look at OPG Platinum. You can look at Artifacts, Future Watch Autos. The Young Guns, there'd be short-term upside. I'd probably, if you want to buy it for 500 or so, and maybe it goes to 750, they make the Stanley Cup Finals, get out, and then it'll go. Guess what? It'll go back down to 500 in July, and you can buy it back there. Those are my guys: Cale Makar, Jack Hughes, Ottinger, Austin Matthews, and Stuart Skinner. Anyone you think I would have been a better choice?
Not off the top of my head, but did you have a panic attack adding 2 goalies? That seems odd.
I know. I thought, you can maybe criticize that, but I just feel like I know how much Skinner has to gain. Like, he's the biggest gamble, right? But he's so cheap right now that it's not a huge risk. And there's something about just how Andre played last year where I'm curious to see if he's going to be one of these guys that just shines in the playoffs. Like when the pressure goes way up.
He's just the world beater. And even they even lost, and he still was the best player by far. They were joking, but it's like, can you give him the MVP of the playoffs, even though they bounced in the first round and lost?
All right, well, that's our show for today. If you like the episode, please leave a rating, review on Apple, Spotify, or whatever podcast app you listen to us on. If you love the show and want to support us and want to see us continue to thrive and produce more content and chat with us every day on the Hockey Cards Gongshow Discord server, please consider a $5 a month donation. Join our out of 99 support level tier on Patreon. It's super easy to do. You go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com, and click on the Become a Patron link. You can go to the Patreon website at patreon.com and search for Hockey Cards Gong Show. There's a link in the show description for whatever podcast app you're listening to us on. Or in our Instagram profile and TikTok profile, you can find a link tree that has the link to our Patreon there. If you're not following us on social media, we're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. And Troy, the Hockey Cards Gong Show podcast is a production of Dollar Box Ventures LLC. We'll see you all on Thursday. Masterclass.